Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So today's video we're doing another one sheet wonder, and this time we're using an 8x8 inch paper pad, and I thought this worked really well. I'm using this paper pad here by the Paper Boutique. This is called Sweet Harmony. I think this is an older pad. I don't think I've actually used any of the sheets out of this. I think I bought it when it was reduced, and these are single-sided sheets here. So in the last one I showed you how to do it with a double-sided 12x12 piece, but this time we're going to be using two 8x8s. So we're going to trim this down. So we're doing the same sizes as we did last time for an A6 card. So as I said, this piece is 8x8 inches, and I'm cutting this at 3.5 inches, and then I'm doing a second 3.5. That's going to leave me with a 1 inch strip, and then I'm cutting it to 5.25 inch, and that's then going to leave me a 2.75 inch square, and we'll be able to use all of these pieces on a card. So we're actually going to be making 14 cards today. So I'm going to be making 6 cards from each of the 2 sets of papers. I'm using 4 sets of papers actually, so I've already cut up another 2 sheets of designs that I wanted to use together, and then I've got 2 bonus cards we're going to be creating from these strips, and we're going to end up with 4 of those 1 inch strips. So out of the 2 8x8 pieces, these are all of the pieces that I have got, and we can go ahead and trim these down. So the first pieces I'm going to trim down are the, let's call them the offcuts. So these measure 3.5 inches by 2.75 inch, and I'm literally just taking 1/8 of an inch off each one of these. When we then put it on the card, it's going to be the same size as the other panels, so that's worked out really nicely. Then we're going to do our first diagonal cut, and you can see that I've taken both of the patterned papers, just placed them one on top of the other. So these you just want to place one on top of the other as normal, and then you can just decide where you want to cut this on the diagonal. For the next panel, we're cutting this down and we're measuring 2.75, and then that gives us just that nice little strip. And again, then we can just change these around so we do have then those different papers on each piece. So you can see the other papers that I've brought in there, 4 of the 1 inch strips that I had left over. And you can see then how our cards are going to look with our patterned paper. So again, all of these papers came from the same paper pad, so they work really nicely together. So you can see we've got the 2 diagonals, we've got the 2 which have got that really thin strip, and then we've got these 2 here, which are the nice big bold pieces. And like I said, I'd already cut up then 2 other 8x8 pieces. So we've got this really lovely one that's got the bird on it, and this has got a little bit of kind of a mustard yellow on here, and then I've put that with the polka dots. I really love all of these papers, they work so nicely together. So now we've got all of our pieces cut, we're just going to cut some mats and layers, and I've done the same mats and layers as what I did for my previous cards. So as I said, we are going to have 14 in total. So we have got 12 through these designs, and then we've got 2 bonus cards just using those strips, which is just the offcuts, and we're virtually using like 98% of all of our patterned papers here. So yeah, A6 cards, which I did trim down. So I just used some white all-purpose Crafter's Companion 300 GSM card and created then my A6 card bases. So my card bases measure 4 inches by 5.75 inch. I've cut up, this is some of the Hunkydory Adorable Scoreable cardstock. So I found this, I didn't want to use like a pink or that kind of mustard colour cardstock. I wanted to find another colour that went with it. So I picked 2 different greys here, and I've trimmed this down. So this is 3.75 inches by 5.5 inches. And then of course we have got our panels to go on top. So when you pop these together, as I said, these are 3.5 inch by 5.25 inches. So I'm just using my Nuvo deluxe glue here, and we're just adding it down, so not much in the way of dimension. And so I've picked the darker colour to go with the sort of lighter coloured papers, and then we've got the lighter grey cardstock to go with that sort of darker grey, just so everything nicely stands out. And again, I've done this in a production line, so I made all of my card bases ahead of time. I then cut down all of my cardstock and my patterned paper, sorry, and then I did my cardstock, and then I'm just popping my panels on. So you can kind of work out where these want to go actually on the page, so you do get that nice even border. Some of mine, you know, are a little bit off, but that's the great thing about using some liquid glue, is you do have a small bit of wiggle time. And this is such a great idea if you want to create gift cards for people, so sets of cards. This is perfect, and this is a really great way of using up those paper pads that you've got, or any papers that you have created yourself. And I actually love this using the 8x8. Like I said, I use like 98%. I think I show you right at the end just what I had left from those offcuts from each of the papers, and it is so minimal that you really do get the most out of your papers from your pads, which I absolutely love, because virtually nothing is going to waste. So I'm continuing to glue all of these down, so lots and lots of pieces on here, but it's going very quickly, again being in this sort of production line style. You can of course dress these up as much as you want. I'm literally just going to be die cutting a feather from vellum and popping a sentiment on, and then a few Nouveau drops at the end. I'm using a sort of bright yellow to help bring out that kind of yellowy mustard yellow that we've got on the feathers, and of course then the feathers fit in nicely with the design. And in with this paper pack you do have the sentiments as well, which I will show you when we get to that point. So I'm just finishing off with my last couple of cards here. I did end up being a couple short, so I had to go back and just make a few card bases, and I'm definitely going to be doing that, so I've got them on hand, perfect for when I'm creating my videos. So I've gotten down all of the pieces, so I'm just going to run through them now so you can see how these look. And this is going to create two sets of cards. Because you've got duplicates of the designs, they're just the other way around, then you can split these into two different sets. So now we're going to look at these two bonus cards. So I've got a light and a dark coloured cardstock left. So the first one I'm just taking 3 of these patterned papers. Like I said, they're 3 inches wide, and then I did trim these down to be the right height, which was 5 1/4. And what you can see on the right hand side, those strips there, that is the leftover pieces from these 3 strips. And then the 4th strip that I had of the patterned paper, I've trimmed that down again. And you can see I'm just laying these strips down really easy. I've lined up the outside too with where I want in terms of a border, and then I just place the middle one of course in the middle. And I think this is such a great way of using any leftover patterned paper. And then with the other scraps, I kind of measured how these, I measured them to see what my scraps were left over, and sort of seeing how I could add this onto the card. And it was brilliant because I ended up having 6. So I've got 3 there from the cut off of the other strips, and then that 4th strip I've managed to cut into 3 pieces, and these measure 1 inch by 2.5 inches tall, and it was absolutely perfect. So again, I've managed to use so much of this paper with very little wastage, and it's great that I was able then to create these 2 extra bonus cards. One can go in each of the sets, so then each set will have 7 cards in it. So again, I'm just gluing that down with some Nouveau glue. I am going to be popping some foam tape onto the sentiments just to help that stand out nicely. So you can see that I'm just lining these up. I prefer putting the outside pieces on first, so again you can get that border in the right sort of spacing, and then pop the middle ones on. So now I'm just going to add this onto my card base here, and that is then all of our cards stuck down, and then we can look at our embellishments, and that there was basically all the waste that I had left over, and I'm so happy. So for my feathers, I'm using this Moonstone Floating Feathers. Anything that I can link to, I will pop in the description box down below. And I purchased these off the Hunkydory website, so I will definitely leave a link if it's still available over there. And I've die cut that from a piece of vellum. So you get 6 different dies in here. You get 2 different kinds of feathers. So I went with the slightly more solid one, just so it would stand out on the page a little bit more. But I wanted to add just a little bit of embellishment without taking anything away from those papers. So I just die cut that using my Gemini Mini, and just die cut that 14 times. And then for our sentiments, so again, I just use, they've got a couple of the sheets in there are full of sentiments, which you can just cut apart. So I'm going to go through all the ones that I've picked out here, and I have just trimmed them down. Some of them I've trimmed down into sort of smaller rectangles, some we've got as strips, and some I've rounded the corners with as well, just to make all of them a little bit different. And it means then that most of the cards are different as well. So you get some really great sentiments in here. You get a couple of pages of toppers as well, which of course you could use. So we've got birthday sentiments in here. We've got like special people sentiments. We've got thinking of you, from our home to yours, with best wishes, all may all your wishes come true. I must have flowers always, always. The best gift is friendship. So you've got some really great sentiments in there that go really well in terms of colours, and the font is lovely as well. So everything goes together because it's all part of a collection. So I'm just sort of picking out the different sentiments to go on each of the cards. So I add a small blob of glue onto our feathers there. So I want to make sure that I can hide all of that glue behind the sentiment. So I'm just putting that in place, adding a little bit of foam tape onto the back of our sentiment, and that's going to keep it in place as well. So with the foam that I'm popping on the back of our sentiment, so I'm actually just using some leftover from my dots because all of the surrounding is all foam as well. I don't want that to go to waste, so I am just trimming that down and popping that onto the back. Because I use the vellum, some of the feathers are quite curled up. I do try to strategically place some Nuvo drops on at the end to cover some of the glue. Some of them are just curling up, but once you pop it into an envelope and things, it probably will sit flatter if that's what you want it to do. But I just make sure that I get my sentiments in place, and I'm trying to put them in 2 different areas. Like I said, get different kind of colours so the sentiments do really stand out. And more often than not, I'm putting my embellishments and my sentiments over the sections where the papers sort of meet together. This particular card, you can see there's a gap in between the papers. That's because I didn't quite get it lined up, and if I'd put it together, it would have been a little bit wonky. So I did just leave that gap sort of in between. But again, you can see where those papers are meeting, I'm popping my embellishments over those areas. So I'm just going to continue to put all of these together with the feathers and with those sentiments as well. So these are the last few cards that I'm popping together, and then these are going to be finished. And then what I did do was add some Nuvo crystal drops in the dandelion yellow. Like I said earlier in the video, I wanted to have something that was just a little bit brighter that would show up against these patterns. So I just sort of dotted them. Some had sort of 3 to 5 and just kind of across the card with around the sentiment. And then that finished these cards. So I waited for them to dry before going through these, and I've separated them out to be the 2 different packs. So again, you can just have these on hand, or of course then you can gift these. I just need to get some or make some envelopes to go with these A6 cards, and these are going to be all finished. So I am loving this one sheet wonder, kind of creating these panels. I don't know how lucky I'd be with a 6x6, but I'm really enjoying using this 8x8. So definitely stick around for more of these kinds of videos. So again, I will try to pop some links in the description box down below. If you like this video and want to support my channel, then please give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. That's it for today. Thanks very much for watching, and happy crafting.